Hi guys, in this video I'm going to talk to you about how to water and how often to water your plants. Now a couple of questions we've had is how to avoid your plants sitting in having wet feet. So I'm going to show you a couple of plants and show you examples of how often and when you probably should be watering a plant and the effects of when you water and what you might likely to see. So I'm going to start with this Calathea zebrina. Now this was watered a couple of days ago and it's quite warm in our warehouse here. So on the top it looks quite dry, the soil is a very light brown. It still feels like there's a little bit of weight in there, but how I like to actually tell, because if you put your hand on the top it's all dry, you might think, oh, I need to water it. But if you stick your finger in, you know, up to about 5 centimeters, you can still feel a little bit of moisture. Now if you go back to our other video and look at moisture levels, you'll understand that a little bit of moisture in peat moss can be a lot. So if we lift this one out, you can see there's a light brown dry layer on the top and we get darker as we go down. So this plant has still got a lot of moisture in it and does not need a water right now. Now with Calatheas and with a few other plants, they don't like having wet feet. They don't like sitting full of water. So you really need to pay attention to how much water is in here, because unlike potting mixes, which the water sits around, peat moss, the water sits in it and it's absorbed by it, almost kind of like a sponge. Now, I've got here a Calathea medallion, which is watered the same day as this Calathea zebrina, but two of the plants similar, same size pot, but one is not using as much water as the other. So if you have a schedule and going, oh, I like to water my plants once a week, here's an example of why I don't like that method. If I lift this plant out, you can see it's a dark brown colour and it feels really heavy and there's a lot of moisture in here. So if you were to water this one because you're watering this one, you're potentially going to choke the root system and not much air is going to get in and around it. So this plant in your house could be good for another week without water. I'll talk about some care tips for Calatheas in another video. I'm just trying to stick to the soil at the moment. Here's a plant also. Looks very dry on the top. This was recently given a water this morning. And I just want to show you, like, it's still dry on top, but if we lift it out, you can really see that layering effect where it's dry on top but quite wet underneath. Now that's still absorbing and it's still transferring the water from the top through the bottom. So just because it's dry on top doesn't mean it needs another water. So, the example there. So, how to avoid having your plants sitting in water if they don't like sitting in water. You can see one of our pots here. There's no drainage hole. You put your plant in here. Now, some people like to leave it like that. I like to pot them in there. You can do this, but you just need to keep an eye on your soil levels. Use that method of putting your finger in and feeling, and only watering these plants without holes when the soil is really dry and almost contracted. If you wait for that point of time, you won't choke your root system and your plant will love it, and you'll get nice healthy growth. I hope that kind of helps, and stay tuned for the next video.